Sean, here's the irony. If the media had been doing their job and holding politicians to account over the last few years, perhaps Luxon would have thought better of claiming the accommodation allowance, says Kate. Well, it all comes. The Premier House, should we rebuild it and fix it? To be honest, I don't really care. Throw $3 or $4 million at Premier House, that's fine. You got to have somewhere nice for, if you like, your highest citizen to live and to, have the Aussies over for a barbecue. It is all so minor, really, in the bigger sweep of history and life in New Zealand. But, I don't know, we get obsessed about the strangest things, and the media are particularly touchy at the moment as the tragedy of the collapse of Newshub democracy and life as we know it continues to unfold in slow motion. I thought, who do I reach out for to just try and make some sense of this madness? We haven't spoken to him for a few weeks, so I thought we'd have a yarn with New Zealand First acolyte political commentator Chris Trotter. Chris, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much, Sean.
You are better than Newshub. This is a tragedy, is it not?
It is a tragedy because I remember TV3, as it will always be for me, in its very earliest incarnation back in the early 90s, when it really was a wonderfully scrappy, irreverent, anarchic, courageous little television network which made some great shows, had some great talent. And it always struck me that in this country we've got a truly weird reversal. Television New Zealand is the great capitalist monolith crushing everything beneath its need for eyeballs to advertisers, blocking off the plucky underdog at every turn.
Yeah.
And there's the private channel full of people wanting to make great television, wanting to speak truth to power, and this is the early days I'm talking about, not more recently. And it should always have been the other way round.
Yeah, that's right.
It was bizarre. The private company had public service broadcasting values, and the publicly owned broadcaster was just the epitome of ratings before all else, and damn anybody who gets in the way.
Well, whatever it started out as, Chris, would you agree with me, but that by the time it finished, it was not what it had started out to be. It was overseas owned, even before the split with MediaWorks and everything. It was overseas owned by a bunch of people who had simply bought the debt and didn't really give a todge about what happened in the company.
Oh, I think what happened to TV3 over the years really is a tragedy. When you look at the bright, shining hope that it began with, and you see what it had become towards the end. Perhaps it's a little early in this discussion to repeat the mantra, go woke, go broke, but it has to be said. The first senior executive at TV3 I ever encountered was a guy called Rod Pedersen.
Yeah,
who was a swashbuckling broadcaster to beat the band. And, people like that just wouldn't get a look in these days. But he was the sort of guy who could work his way around, problems with enormous panache. I mean, when Can West, which was the first overseas company to ride to the rescue, as it were, came, they were planning, so I was told years later, on dropping the news and current affairs.
I can remember the guy. Jerry Noble was the guy, name of the X-Man. They said he fell in love with New Zealand. And maybe some of our staff.
But Pedersen, the great story from Pedersen's era was that he signed up his news and current affairs team to such ridiculously generous redundancy deals that Ken West
I was one of them.
Oh, we might as well keep it.
I was one of them.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Those sort of journalists, you know,
Yeah.
the Bill Ralstons of this world in his youth, you know, who filmed the Prime Minister's open briefcase.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you just don't get that anymore.
Okay, well, enough of the reminiscing. Enough of the reminiscing about the good old days, Chris.
All right.
The fact is, they joined what increasingly seems to be a cabal of woke and mainstream media. I mean, God, the fact that they went to TVNZ and RNZ said, let's just all get together, because we are anyway, and just have one source of truth. And TVNZ told them to bugger off.
I tell you what, I mean, if I can combine nostalgia with the most immediate events, the guy who took over TV News, Mark Jennings, has, in my mind at least, besmirched his legacy almost irretrievably with the comment that he made in regard to Winston Peters and Peters' criticisms of the media. He mused that it might be a good idea if all the senior, you know, journalists, editors got together and just decided not to cover him. Now, I can't think of any comment which would further cement in the public idea that, you know, there is something very wrong with the New Zealand media. Here is somebody, an unelected person, saying that they should refuse to cover the Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand. Now, you know, that's just not on.
Chris, just while I've got you here, and of course the media, or the News Club, as we may call it. Someone suggested it's not News Hub. The whole thing is just the News Club. They got their revenge. Well, the new narrative, of course, this is all Winston Peters' fault, which is chronologically just wrong. He pointed out how stuffed people thought they were. He didn't make them hated and distrusted by 58% of New Zealanders. But now it's his fault, and it's Luxon's fault for not telling Winston off and stop him saying things that mainstream media didn't want to report, and accurately pointing out that they'd taken bribes from the government and compromised their editorial integrity. But it's now all Luxon's fault, and lo and behold, the mainstream media get a hit back him on Friday. He's taken an allowance he was entitled to.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have done it if I was Luxon. Not many people have done it for quite a while.
I wouldn't have given the money back.
Well, there you go.
But come on, so does this mean Labor, Willie Jackson has to give the money back he took for the same allowance last year?
I mean, I note a certain reticence on the part of Labor, and rightly so, because a great many of their people take exactly the same allowance.
And the Greens set up a property development company.
Yes, I remember. But look, it's just politics, Sean, and you've been around politics for a long time. It's just not a look you need to get into trouble for. The thing that I wish Luxon had the guts to do was to say, right, that bloody monstrosity, Premier House, is going to be bulldozed flat. We're going to have a nationwide architectural competition.
I was thinking the same thing last night.
To build the best bloody residence for this country's leader that any country can boast. And then we won't feel like poor cousins when the Aussies come or the
Brits
come or anybody else.
Like a mini Sydney Opera House, Chris, is what we need.
Exactly. A real masterpiece, something that we can be proud of and that will stand for 100 or more years. And just stop arguing about it.
What
just
a great idea. Let's make that happen, Chris Trotter.